Hello everyone, welcome to Edupedia. My name is Shuchi Khanna. For last 13 years, I have been working in corporate field in the field of human resource and managing various levels. However, I always had the passion of teaching and therefore through Edupedia, I plan to share my learning experience with a wider audience. We all know that change is a very constant feature in our life, be it professional or personal. When we were born as a child, we never knew how to run, walk, or play. Now imagine yourself today if you would have been in the same situation as when you were born, what would have happened? It wasn't possible for you to lie on bed throughout your life. So, with the period of time, we not only learnt this craft, but we are now actually expert in doing that. Similarly, organizations do go for a change. Now let me give you a case study of a very known company called as Tata Motors company. Tata Motors is one of the branches or one of these segments of Tata as an organization. Now Tata Motors went through a period of significant transition in the year 2001. A number of changes were worked out that with respect to customer expectations, innovation strategies. This was the year when Toyota as a company has come in India and was doing really well. Ford, Hyundai was definitely taking a leap ahead, and suddenly the need for change was happening. The need of customers were changing. Innovations were required. There were a couple of things that Tata Motors decided to do, and in year 2004 called for major changes in the organization wide. As a result of those changes, the company was listed in New York Stock Exchange. Today, Tata Motors has given the world the cheapest, smallest car. They also tied up with the biggest plant called Chorus as an organization. Now let's imagine that if Tata would have decided not to change itself, if they would have decided that I would remain static, do you realize what would have happened to Tatas by now? They would have definitely perished. Why? Because the demand of the customers were changing. There were a whole new segment of customers that had come in picture who were demanding better strategies, better cars, better models, better customer service. And if Toyota could have done it and not Tata, then Tata would have actually perished. So, with that example in mind, how important change is in our organization or in our personal life, I come to the most relevant topic of human resource called as organization development and change. Now let's decide what is organization development and change. Organization development is actually a process. It is not a one-day affair. It is not that you decide today and the organization changes. You don't decide that let's do it plan A and tomorrow we are going to execute plan B. Not possible. Organization development is actually a process through which an organization improves its internal capacity to be most effective. So organization change doesn't talk about outside, it talks about inside of it. The people, the stakeholders, the customers, the internal customers that we are talking about are the most important people who help this organization development, which is a process to change and make its people more effective. Organization development is a set of activities which may be undertaken to increase organization as well as human resource effectiveness. So there are series of activities. You cannot just name one that, okay, this is task A, I'm going to utilize this and I will see a change. It's a series of activities at human level, at organization level that we have to undertake to ensure that organization effectiveness increases. Now let's go by some definitions that some of the authors worldwide have given about organization development. If you can see, I have quoted a few of the definitions from French and Bell, Richard Beckard, Scoop and Miles, Matt Minhan Associates. Now all of them, if you see, are talking about one thing, which is organization development is a systematic process. It is not a one-day affair. It is an effort, a planned effort rather, to ensure that the organizational culture changes. It is not actually any process. It's a scientific, logical process using behavioral science knowledge to ensure that the change happens. And change, when happens in a logical, objective way using scientific method, is a constant feature. Remains in the system. The culture changes. So if I go, I will read one of the definitions of organization development. Let's say I'll read from Richard Beckard. I find that definition very, very important because it's a very clear way of discussing what organization development is all about. I'll read it. Organization development is an effort, planned, organization-wide, managed from the top to increase organization effectiveness and health through planned interventions in the organization processes using behavioral science knowledge. So he's very clear on this point that OD is an effort. Effort, not random. It is a planned way. So today I sit in my organization and I decide that, okay, my organization needs an OD intervention because of XYZ reason, and therefore I will plan for it. It cannot be one department. I say, okay, I have a problem in accounts department, let's change that organization. It cannot be possible. It has to be organization-wide because the culture, the norm that we talk about is organization-wide. It has to be managed from the top, which means your top guys, your core team of the company, your main important people, the real stakeholders of the organization have to be accountable. They have to be in for the organization development. It cannot happen without their involvement. And increase organization effectiveness through planned interventions. So it cannot be random. It cannot be sudden. Okay, you have a problem A, let's sort it out. I give you a solution B. No. It has to be a planned intervention, a regular intervention happening at every time, so that an employee, a third party actually sees that change happening in the organization development. So if you go through all the 4 definitions that I have shared with you, there are many other definitions I'm sure on net available, but I felt that these 4 definitions are the most crucial way and the right way of defining what organization development is all about. So just summarizing this whole thing that I have talked about, organization development, in fact, if I talk about the nature of organization development, how is it? It's a dynamic process. It is not static. It's an ongoing process. It's a continuous process from plan A to plan B. And if you think plan B is going to sustain for another 10 years, sorry sir, it has to be changed. So it's an ongoing process. Organization development is a culture. It has to be felt. It has to be believed in. And then that change happens constantly. The Kaizen activity constantly happens. The continuous improvement keeps on happening, and as a result, the organization grows from good to great. Just to share a few of the examples, because I've talked about good to great. The organization change at Abbott wanted culture change to change. They wanted to change and realign the corp culture, organization culture, with company's vision and mission statement. Do you know a successful OD intervention done by Philip Edison Company for the company Abbott? They did a survey, they did feedback, they did small group intervention. I'm going to talk about all these interventions later in my PPTs. Actually led to an increase in performance by 43%. There was an enhancement of 43%. The positive culture that we're talking about the organization actually increased from 10 to 50%. So there's a change. There's a continuous change that I see. Let's take an example of a cricket. These days we are seeing a lot of cricket. What if Dhoni would have just been doing the same thing what his predecessors were doing? Saurabh Ganguly, Rahul Dravid. Do you think we could have ever won the World Cup last year? Or the kind of performance that he has given in T20? And you can see that successful interventions happening, new faces coming in the streamline, older faces taking a back seat, older faces acting more as a consultant, more as team players. So the organization has to have this successful positive OT interventions happening to make sure that the organization culture shifts. Now I'll talk about objectives. What are the objectives of organization development? Every organization, if I go and say that, okay, I need to have an organization development, they will first ask me, why do you think an organization development is important? Now I've listed a couple of points over here which you can go through the PPT, but to elaborate on all these points, I would like to talk about, we need organization development in our organizations. Why? Because individual performances have to be improved. Organization development, OD interventions have the capability of improving individual performances. So OD becomes, the first objective of OD becomes that individual performance improves. Organization development ensures proper use of human efforts and commitment. So it's not one day. It's, as I said in my previous slide, it needs commitment. Commitment not only of the lower end guy, it needs commitment of the top end guy to ensure that organization development. The minute the top guy is committed to organization development, you see a change happening in human behavior. A human behavior which actually helps in improving its performance. OD, the biggest objective of OD, I guess, is to create a culture of letting employees solve their problems. You know, today when I go to organizations and I talk about, sir, आपके यहाँ पे efficiency नहीं है. So why is the efficiency not coming in? Why is my performance dipping? Why do I see attrition level happening? Do you know what they get? They start doing blame game. They start talking about, this is not happening, this is not happening, this is not happening, this is not happening. Organizational development is actually reverse of that. It makes employees, it makes managers become answerable, become I should say accountable of finding solutions to the problem. So the entire organization actually starts functioning on solution mode. The minute the organization comes in a solution mode, what do you think that they start doing in? They start maintaining interpersonal relationships. You know, when we work as a team to make sure that this plan gets executed, we start believing in each other. We start trusting in each other. I just shared you a bot example. The entire organization saw a change in the top, in the positive atmosphere from 10 to see straight away 50%. Because people started feeling involved, people started feeling committed. That's the beauty of organization development. That's the strength of organization development. Definitely, the organization development increases knowledge and skills of the employees. They create job satisfaction. You know, when I'm part of the bigger goal, and that bigger goal is actually helping reaching the organization mission and vision, I become a part of the organization, and that leads to more job satisfaction. Now, if you ask me how to measure job satisfaction, the biggest tool of job satisfaction is lesser attrition, higher productivity. If your company has a lesser attrition and higher productivity, your employees are satisfied in the system. So OD, because it's a cultural change, because it's a regular change, because it's a continuous change, job satisfaction creeps in. And definitely the values and norms. Every organization and employee has some values or norms. The values and norms can help the organization to uphold its own culture. Organization development actually creates and supports suitable values and norms. So just to read out, objectives definitely improves organization performance to ensure use of individual effort, to create awareness, to create and maintain work environment, to create job satisfaction, and to create supportive values. Let's move ahead. Characteristics of organization development. Now, what is the organization development? What are its main features? What are the main characteristics? What is the DNA of organization development? So OD is all about culture. It's not a one-day affair. Time and again in my presentation, I'm repeating, it's a repeated process. It's a continuous process. It's a collaboration that we talk about. It's about workers in participation. It's about total quality management that we bring in. If it's about Six Sigma effort that we're trying to bring in. It's about action research model that we're trying to bring in. It talks about developmental view. It talks about accomplishment of task. So these are the DNAs of OD. Organization development activities are undertaking following conclusions and recommendations of action research members related to client. It's a development, it's a practice in organization development. Organization is making the client answerable for everything that they are doing. They are in a solution mode finding of doing. It is done by teaching skills and knowledge on a continuous learning through self-analytical methods. Facilitation, that's very important. Now there are three parties to organization development. They are facilitators, collaborators and co-learners in them. Cooperation of all these parties can actually help the organization to develop. So there are three parties. Facilitators, one, the change agent, the people who actually facilitate the organization development, which is your top guys. The collaborators, you collaborate with certain interventions, some clients, some agents outside, you collaborate with them. And then the co-learners, the people who are the real people who will take the organization development ahead. System change. In organization development DNA is always talking about system change. Because if we do not have a system change, OD is not successful. If you say I've changed in the organization development, I've changed one person to other person, not possible. Then that's not an organization development for sure. Then that's just an intervention happening. That's a behavioral discussion that you had with somebody and you change that person. OD is, it talks about system at large. It talks about people at large. It talks about whole group as large. So these are the characteristics of organization development. Now, principle of organization development, its very values is based on self-awareness and it is system focused. Values are self-awareness and collaboration. As I said, system focused and action research. So nothing over here is talked about as assumptions or beliefs or facts. They are talking about, there are interventions like action research. There are interventions like data taking. There are interventions like talking to employees and feedbacks. And then going ahead and giving a feedback. Small group interventions happening, talking and sharing of feedbacks happening, and that actually becomes the principle of the organization development because it's based on real facts, it's based on real data. Now, why important? Why do you think an organization development is? My organization will, you go and tell some organization that, sir, why do you want? My company is doing fairly well. My company is perfectly okay. Why should I go ahead and change it? Everything is absolutely fine. Task A is doing their task. Task B, everybody is supposed to be doing what they're supposed to do. My friend, my answer is, if you're doing the same thing for a period of time, at the end of the day, you'll be getting the same thing at the end of the day. So, if you're putting an X effort and you're getting a Y result, you'll keep on getting a Y result till the time you do not want to make a change in the X factor. Now that Y result could be a same profit sheet for the entire year or a very similar attrition happening at the same level. Now, importance of organization development. Why do we have to go ahead and do this organization development? If a reasonable OD program is undertaken, actually, morale and satisfaction of employees are increased by 100%. And that can result in good performance. Look, if I'm a satisfied employee, if I'm a motivated employee, I can bet you that nobody can stop me from achieving 100%. It actually increases the competitive ability of the organization. This position can be gained by producing quality goods, rendering better services, expanding markets, sending goods at the doorsteps. What is Flipkart doing every day? Let's take an example of a Flipkart. If Flipkart would have not changed itself, today you see ads of Flipkart coming that we are giving you the best of the deals. There are defined strategies written that this is, if you do this, if you're not satisfied with the product, we will take that back at any given point of. Flipkart never had this policy before. They recently introduced that whatever we are giving you is actually 100% tested. They are trying to change the culture. They are trying to increase their competitive ability. With Amazon coming in picture, they want to get that competitive edge ahead. So OD actually helps in doing that. It helps the organization to provide quality goods and services. Whether OD has been taken part properly or not, it is proven that quality of goods and services definitely improve. Research and development is the successful weapon of any organization. It helps innovate, improve quality of goods and services, and increase competitive strengths. The imitative of organization development program comes from an organization that has problem. This means that the management is aware that the problem exists and has decided to seek help in solving it. Now that's a wonderful thing. By ignoring that my organization doesn't have a problem, doesn't solve the problem. It's like in chronic disease that if you do not decide to dissect it, the organization will fall flat. So OD actually helps the organization to realize that yes, there is a problem. Now that's the first step towards solution. OD actually makes employers feel, yes, there is a problem, let's figure it out. And in that figuring out of the solution, they collaborate with people, they collaborate with outside parties, they collaborate with internal stakeholders and start finding solution. When internal stakeholders, when internal customers are involved, when the employees are involved in making any change, that change becomes a sustainable change. That change is more readily acceptable by the organization, more readily acceptable by employees. There is less resistance to change happening. So the importance of organization development is that it's a change agent. It leads to high morale and satisfaction. It helps in providing quality goods and services. There's healthier competition that increases the competitive ability of the organization overall. There's a self-renewal that an organization development can bring in. You know, this whole self-renewal thing. Let's take an example of Maggie. The whole Maggie fiasco we are all aware of. Now, it could be a possibility that yes, there was a product issue, there was a food issue that happened. Now, what if they would have said that they could have resisted it? So, no, our product is absolutely fine. Instead, they said, okay, feedback taken, let me work on it. Let me find out solution for it. And that's when they do. And today they are back in action. So it actually talks about self-renewal. The whole new brand of Maggie is now in a self-renewal mode. Increased motivation. If I'm as an employee is involved in the organization development, I will definitely like to be a part of this entire organization. So I would like to say that organization development is the need of the hour. If as an organization do not becomes the need of the hour, if we do not decide to change, as an organization we'll perish. I can share a number of examples with you. Successful OD interventions of Six Sigma at Ford India level when it was brought in actually made Ford achieve $300 million in year 2000. You know, they brought in successful OD interventions and the company could gain $300 million. That's huge money. Amazon, there's a constant Kaizen culture that they are talking about. Toyota Motor Corporation, Kaizen is inbuilt. Respect for people, continuous improvement is what they talk about. SGA culture, small group activities. Sit down with smaller group, talk to each other, find the root cause of the problem, and that root cause finding actually becomes the culture of the organization. So OD becomes very important in the organization. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, students, for listening patiently through me. My next topic would definitely be history of organization development. I will take you briefly through when and where the history of what all and how the organization development came into the picture and the way it is today, where is it has come from. So I'll be taking you through that. In case you have any queries, you can always get in touch. If you like our videos, do subscribe to our channel Edupedia World. You can also log in to our videos at www.edupediaworld.com. With that note, I sign off. Thank you so much.